So it's time now to review headlines of today's newspapers. And of course, we are going to start with the newspaper of record, This Day on Saturday.
All right, we'll go straight into it. The lead story on the cover of today's This Day says, with 11 trillion naira FAAC allocation in 1 year, governors urged to deliver results. That story is on page 5 of today's newspaper. And then beside the first picture, the first photograph on the cover of This Day, presidency to Kwakwanso, you are wrong. North not neglected by the federal government, which is a response to Kwakwanso's, we discussed it earlier in the program.
As the kids say, you go explain sire, no evidence. Okay, on top of the masthead, Uwada's emergence as APC chairman strengthens Tinubu's strategy for 2027 presidential race. That's on page 5. Also on page 5 is the story on the window. Naira bonds beat 23 emerging markets, peers as federal government's reforms take shape. The rider Citigroup, Nigeria, other African borrowers regaining access to foreign capital markets. And then the last but not the least story is the story of Aliko Dangote retires from Dangote Cement. Ikazobo, now chairman. That story is on page 6. The two pictures there, the first one, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohamed Idris, with the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, Deputy Governor of Edo State, Dennis Idausa, and the Minister of Finance, Wali Edun, at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital during the inauguration of one of the 3 oncology centers established by the federal government recently. And then more importantly, the second picture, class of 1999 governor's courtesy visit, which shows a number of former governors who were, who were in the class of 99 to 2023 with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos State. Let's see who they are. I think they were led there by James Ibori.
Of
Delta, and Donald Duke, former governor of Cross River.
Cross River, which is interesting given that you really can't say that these are like APC sort of, members. Who are the others? Donald Duke, Bauchi Adamu Muazu, Plateau Joshua Darie Ebonyi, Sam Egu, Edo Lucky Benedion, the president himself, secretary to the government of the Federation and former Benue governor. He was also in the class, George Akume, chief of staff to the president, Bajabia Mila, also shares in the glory, even though he was not a governor. Former governor of Ekiti, Niyi Adebayo, he did one term. Adamawa Boni Haruna, Akwa Ibom Victor Atta. Many people have not heard from him, in the long while. Akpabio, you hear all the time. But then somebody, made it happen for Akpabio. Obong Victor Atta. Jigawa Samino Turaki, Kebi Adamu Aliero, and Delta James Ibori during the visit of Class 99 governors to Tinubu at the State House. That's an interesting development, isn't it?
It is. I look at this and I just think legacy. I mean, I know there's a politics side to this, but I really just think about legacy. I look at all these governors, and just like you rightly said, for a state like Akwa Ibom, you hear Akpabio. But before Akpabio, there was, a Victor Atta. And
a brilliant architect who did fantastically well.
Of course.
The Ibom golf course, everything.
Exactly. These are all great things, and it just speaks to legacy, the fact that, first of all, you're not going to be a governor forever. And when you're not a governor anymore, how do you want people to talk about you? Do you even want people to talk about you? Do people look at you? We look at names like Donald Duke here. I mean, anyone who, when you know Donald Duke, you cannot be unaware. But there are some names here that I will not be surprised if some Nigerians are just hearing for the first time in a long time.
That's true.
So legacy matters. What you do when you are in power, because you will not remain in power forever. Would you just become another governor that's waiting for a picture like this to at least have your face emerge on the front page of a paper? Or would you be somebody that remains within the corridors of legacy, of policies, and thought leadership within Nigeria, as we see some of the people in this picture? I mean, there are lots of people here that have been silent for a very long time.
I'm also sure a lot of Nigerians, if you ask them some of the faces or names of some of our 36 governors now, they will not be able to name every single one. Because even some
governor now.
Yes.
Currently in power. Oh, yes, 100%.
Because not everyone even in power now is really truly on seat or in front of our faces. But also importantly, what this picture reminds me of is that power is transient. And it's always a reminder for politicians because, you know, sometimes people forget.
People forget easily. But there are a few names that I thought will be there who are in that class too, and who ought to have shared at least in the merriment.
Because there's only 14 out of 36 that are there.
Exactly. Oji Uzokalu. Well, I mean, you know, he had 2 terms.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
He's still in the Senate. Adamu, you know, the former governor of Nasarawa State and former chairman of APC. You know, of course, we know that he probably didn't part ways, you know, with the president on a good note, but, you know, he wasn't there. Chief Segun Shoba, who is an ally of the president, is not there. There are, of course, a number of them who have passed on, you know, like Lamadeshina of Oyo State, who had 1 term in 1999. But, you know, the idea is beautiful, you know. I was in the same set with all these people, and they have come to pay, you know, homage to me. Agagu was also in that class, I believe. He has also passed on.
What is the idea? I mean, just to reiterate it, what is the idea of this, you know, meetings? Just to go back to reminisce or to highlight that, you know.
2 things I would
what would you say is
one, it will be the symbolism of it. You know, at the time, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the only governor from the southwest that was in opposition, particularly between 2003 and 2007. They were all meeting, you know, at the Governors Forum. They were all going to Abuja, you know, to ask for more money to get, you know, and to now have one of them as the commander-in-chief now, I think that the sort of quality of advice that he will get from all these people, I mean, I will imagine that these are all made successful, you know, gentlemen. But then they may want to remind him that, you remember when we were governors, these were the things that we used to push in Abuja. Now that you are now sitting on that seat, you know, when we used to attack Obasanjo, when we used to say, no way, governors are powerful. Now, you know, what are you going to? I believe that there will be friendly banters and advice and everything. Because these days, what we hear, and we also hear it from the president, is that, oh, yes, you know, don't just put all the blames on the federal government. As he said during the APC, you know, neck, let the governors also wet the grass. You know, that was his expression. So he's saying that let the governors also deliver on their mandate, particularly now that they are getting more money, at least in Naira, you know, nominal terms, they're getting more money. And they should be able to pay salaries. They should be able to do a lot better, even the local government area. So if you have all the people that many of them you would have disagreed with in the past, many you will have, you know, negotiated deals with. So coming together to say, we acknowledge the fact that you are now, you know, the president and commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, it's no mean feat. It's a big deal, you know. So whatever they say to him, for the interest of our country, Nigeria, I believe that he will reflect and say, okay, now that I've gotten there and have done more than 2 years, maybe I should also be thinking in terms of solid legacy. What else do I need? What more jets will I want? What more countries? Well, I'm just saying, I just use that loosely. So the idea will be, you know, is plans for Nigeria and for Nigerians, given that this is the highest position in Nigeria that anybody could aspire, you know, to be. So that for me is the symbolism of it.
I think another thing, looking at this image, like I said, it's just such a reminiscent image, because when you look at these names, you also remember different times that their names popped up for different experiences, some positive, some negative, especially around paying off contracts, you know, paying contractors for the work that they've done. You know, that's something that even till now still remains a big challenge. I think of appraisals. Do you think our governors maybe need to actually start delivering on, okay, this is what we did and completed? the same way in corporate setups, you have actual appraisals that let us know whether or not you're going in or you're not going in. I think that's something that maybe it needs to now become a physical document that you let us know this is what you did, this is what you completed, this is how it went into.
Without saying,
It should be, but I think, I'm just saying it because it's like you're stating the obvious. This is something that is normal, but you have to state it because at this point, it's almost as if these appraisals have become silent.
Yes. Well, I don't think they've become silent at all. I think that's what we're praising them right now. But I think we should move on to the Guardian weekend because very interesting stories. They're very important stories on the Guardian. The lead story, of course, says decades after Nigeria wobbles to produce physical ID card for citizens and puts the head of NIMSI's picture there. As they say here, is a decades after problem, but it seems we're still having persistent problems. And this is a problem that we have seen will also affect our visas and all our identification issues.
It's a major problem.
It's a huge problem.
And I hope that the supervising ministries are listening, and that also brings me to reflect on the issue of NIN websites that is
topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy, if you have had to do anything at any of the telcos service center, which I have had to do in the last 2 months of back and forth. The key issue that they've been saying all this while is that the NIN, site is messy. It's not up. You can't get to swap your SIM. You can't even get to do a fresh registration because of the NIN. And this is at a time that we are saying that everybody has gone digital. I was somewhere yesterday, to again try to resolve something. And I met, a former Attorney General of the Federation at the same service center, which of course I won't want to mention. Wow. And he's been going back and forth there just to resolve, a very minor issue. Yeah. I'm telling you that I've had to deal with this nonsense for almost 2 months. Just because the NIN. And then we have a minister now, Abi, that is supervising everything digital in the country. Is he aware?
NIMSI, the DG of NIMSI.
Are they aware that it's a mess if you have to swap your SIM card, if you lose or misplace one, or you are getting a totally new number? So I can imagine visitors to the country coming to say, okay, I will spend a week or 2 weeks and I'm picking a SIM card and I need to register it. And they can't get it done because the system is faulty.
It's honestly a shame. But there's a very important story here. They even put it in red so we don't miss it on the front page of The Guardian.
Yeah.
Tinubu meets Gencos, moves to resolve 4 trillion naira debt overhang. Now that is on page 36. Very interestingly, of course, we saw the picture of President Tinubu with the head of Gencos, like Tony Elumelu earlier this week.
Yeah.
And we also had the essay to the president, Ms. Oluverjan, come out and say that of the 4 trillion naira debt that has been accruing since 2015, that 1.8 trillion has been confirmed, like we owe this money. So at least 1.8 trillion has been.
So who's owing who?
Well, Nigeria federal government is owing the Gencos, and they're having problems because when our generating companies are hugely indebted, they're not profitable, and the banks are bringing out their pens to say, we want to take over here, or this company can fail here. What happens to us Nigerians who are actually the end users of power?
Yeah.
We're paying for the power, and it seems the government is owing these Gencos. And very importantly, again, because, it seems in the last couple of weeks we've forgotten, this debt has been owed since 2015. What happened in 2015?
I wonder.
Okay.
The Punch, what do we have there, Kachi?
Yes, of course, we can take a look at the Punch on Saturday today. The major story there speaking about Nigerians in the UK risking deportation as UK scraps sponsorship for over 100 skilled jobs. Caregivers, artists, fashion designers, others affected, over 10,000 fear. Over 10,000 fear losing legal status. Of course, we know that this is as the UK continues to work around its immigration policies. Now, this regulation took effect on July 22nd, 2025. Various visa routes, including the skilled worker and healthcare visas, along with requirement for sponsoring, sporing foreign workers as well. So this is definitely going to affect a lot of people who are currently in the UK. And when you just think that it couldn't get worse, it just does, especially off the back of what we're seeing in the US as well, with the new visa policy that's saying that you're only getting a single entry and a visa that lasts from 5 years previously for the B1, B2 visas to now 3 months on a single entry. That's pretty tough. And I think
it's interesting that this is the reality now with the UK government, given that it's Labour that is in power. So if they can be this tough at this time, can we now imagine what will happen if our sister Kemi Badenoch, becomes the prime minister with all the rhetorics?
Our sister, your sister. I'm not claiming.
Is she not our sister?
Oh no, I think she's your sister. I'm not claiming any new family members are.
But she can't deny it, even if she lies on air to CNN about what the Constitution says about how our kids can become Nigerian and stuff. And I hope that she will find it appropriate to apologize. To Nigeria. Nobody's claiming her. Nobody that's, Kemi is Kemi, let her, go ahead.
I doubt that apology is ever going to come.
And then it will stick that she lied, on air to an international television station against our country of heritage. And that's not the quality of a potential prime minister of the United Kingdom that you'll be looking forward to.
Definitely.
So I'm saying that if we're dealing with this sort of a thing under, a Labour administration, then guess what will happen if Kemi eventually gets the ticket?
Yes.
Nigeria will become our focus of attention. Don't let them come in.
I wonder what we did. What did Nigeria do, though? What did Nigeria do to Kemi Badenoch? Like, what exactly? Because if you do think, we've had so much right from the state.
Somebody wrote something on social media that at some point, maybe Sister Kemi Adegoke will have to tell us who broke her heart, at some point in Nigeria or something.
I think to be, there's some things that make you upset about Nigeria when you go to a place that works. It's a lot of times when you miss home, but you resent how it does not work. You resent the intricacies, the embarrassments that you go through every day on a very small level. I don't think that is what she's dealing with. But what I'm saying is that, because I think, her aside, because she has said something that you would say not beyond Nigerians, just about immigrants or other black and brown people. It goes beyond just Nigeria. Some of the things that comes out of her mouth, in my opinion, can be very harsh towards other people of our race, beyond just Nigeria. But obviously the Nigerian one is what will incense us more or reach us here more. But she's made a lot of comments over the years about different communities that could be harmful. But as you said, it's a Labour government. I believe Jeremy Corbyn is going to start his own party soon. So things are going to be changing in England.
Well, I think we can quickly talk about what's going. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were here talking about the SDP. Looks like the crisis is deepening. NEC sacks NWC members. Party disowns El Rufai. How did that even happen? What is going on?
Is El Rufai still in SDP?
He's in ADC now.
But they're saying that they are...
He just passed through. He passed through SDP.
They are disowning him, just in case there was any...
There was no bus stop there. He just basically moved on.
He used them as stopgap measure.
To just say
watch the gap.
Shall we look at the Saturday Vanguard very quickly? The lead story: for free, fair, credible 2027 polls, strip president of power to control judiciary, INEC. That's Nigerians talking there, and it's a sample, across board of what Nigerians think. Don't create a super mega powerful president that can, control the judiciary and INEC. Strip president of power to control them, they say, and that will fall within the purview of the constitutional review and amendment they are talking about. And then on page 12 of Saturday Vanguard, private sector raises alarm as public debt races to 200 trillion naira. How naira devaluation exploded debt profile. 200 trillion naira is not a joke, because we will have to pay back most of this amount in dollars. You would need plenty naira to have to pay back. And we're still borrowing, sadly, aren't we?
Yes, the Senate and the House just approved the president's MTF borrowing plan in the last week. And as you say, a lot of times we ask that, are we mortgaging our children's future so we can have small political wins or white elephant projects. I think it's a very serious conversation we need to have because, again, the bill will pass on to our children.
Absolutely, because what it means is that, yes, there are tax reforms, revenue, but then it means that we are not making enough money. That's why we're borrowing more. Can this also call for a situation where we look at the way that we spend money, the size of our government, the size of the agencies? We're talking agencies every time. Nothing on Orosai report anymore. I keep saying it. No, nothing on Orosai report. Nothing on tightening the size of government.
It looks like we like it now big. Feels like Father Christmas. I feel like I'm not sure because I do remember there was a press conference about it, but sometimes I feel that maybe I dreamt it up. Maybe I dreamt up the press conference where they gave us a timeline and they told us about how they were going to implement the
Special advisor to the President Adiza was, categorical, about what will happen. But it looks like even the powerful Adiza has not managed to get her way on this Orosai.
Powerful Hadiza.
It doesn't even look like the president is interested in it. Let everybody roll.
Well, I think we can wrap things up with the nation. We can wrap with the nation. And we see very similar stories here. The nation leading today with the presidency and what they have to say to Kwankwo. So Tinubu is not neglecting the North. You can find that on page 4. They listed roads, rail, energy, health, agriculture, education projects across northern geopolitical zones. President has been fair to all parts of the country. That is from Dave Umahi. We have seen him several times on the show, and I'm sure he has a lot to say about this. Afenifere also slamming the ex-Kano governor over alarmist rhetoric. You can find that story in detail on page 4. We also see a similar image, the president reuniting with the 1999 governor's class at the State House. Now, the nation leads with the same story around the SDP, but in a different way. SDP NEC dissolves Gabam-led NWC. That's a window story. Secretary faults process. Party disowns El Rufai. Now gives us a reason, accuses the ex-governor of a destabilization plot. Well, Tinubu moves to resolve 4 trillion naira power sector debt, appeals for patience from the Gencos. OK's bond program promises transparency in verification processes.
Yeah, what's the EFCC?
The FCC is warning against suspicious foreign airline ticket promos in a time when ticket prices are incredibly high. They're saying there's been a lot of promos going around, but Nigerians need to be very, very careful as to how they take advantage of these promos to make sure that there are not scams waiting to happen.
That's a good one.
Yes, of course. NAPTIP also, there's a similar story from NAPTIP talking about how traffickers use online loans, scholarships, and others to entrap victims. I think there's a lot about this going on, especially in the wake of Kemi Adetaba's new film as well. I think it's something that Nigerians need to focus on, how AI is now being used in a lot of cyber crime. I think that's something that Nigerians need to study more about, watch the movie, and also read pages 3 and 2 of the Nation newspaper.
I think that NAPTIP story is a very crucial one there because a lot of Nigerians do fall victim to human trafficking.
Very
true. So it's a very incredibly important story there. Slightly different from the EFCC one, but the EFCC one also interesting. I would like to see more activity from EFCC in the second half of the year. I feel like they've been calm. We've seen there've been a lot of statements.
They've been calm and like people are saying that even the chairman should also compose himself very well.
Yes.
Attending private parties where many of the people that are within your radar are dancing and clinking glasses.
Allegedly.
That's not where you want to be.
Allegedly.
Frankly speaking.
Allegedly. You know what?
Allegedly.
But you must jollificate after working so hard day and night to fight our financial crimes across the country, fighting some ex-governors over there. One thing I've been thinking, one thing I do find very disheartening recently is that I have been seeing all this conversation about EFCC reaching deals when it comes to corruption from ex-public officials. And I just don't understand why deals are on the table. And the average person goes to prison for lesser figures and lesser crimes.
All right.
These are the issues.
That brings us to the end of the morning show today, ladies. Thank you for watching and do stay safe. I'm Steve Ayorinde.
Well, thank you for sticking with us, all of Lagos and from across the world. I'm Adeswa Giwa Osage.
And I'm Kachi Ofia from my entire team here in Lagos, Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day.